Hello everyone. In today's lesson we are going to continue with spreadsheets in a little bit more detail, in that we are going to discuss the difference in data types and locations. As mentioned in the previous lesson, we learned that a spreadsheet consists of columns and rows, and where the rows and the columns meet, these little blocks are called cells. So now if you want to type any data into a cell, you click on the cell in which you want to type and you enter the data. Now every cell has its own address, and you can see that in the name box over here, because it tells you that I have selected cell B3. If I had to click on another cell, you can see its name is cell E1, and they combined the column and the row, and that's how you get the cell's address. Now when we type in data, you obviously need to select a cell or a column or a row. So we're going to start with selecting columns. To select a column is very, very easy. All you need to do is take your mouse pointer, you rest it on the column heading, and you can see that the mouse pointer becomes a little black arrow facing down, and you click once and you will have selected the entire column. The same works for a row. You take your mouse pointer and you rest it on the row you want to select. Now the mouse pointer changes to a little black arrow facing to the right. So you click once and your entire row will be selected. So to select a column, we'll go over it again. You click on the actual column header, and to select a row, you put your mouse on the actual row header. So now that is selecting columns and rows, but you might want to select cells that are next to each other for formatting or other reasons. So to do that, you can see your mouse pointer is actually a little white cross. So you start in the cell in which you want your selection to start. You click and hold the left mouse button and you drag it across and down, and you will have selected a range of cells. You can also drag it down and across. It makes no difference in which order you do it. So now if we have to go to calc, it works exactly the same way. To select a column, we're going to put our mouse pointer on the column header and we are going to click once, and you will have selected the entire column. And if we want to select a row, you put your mouse on the row header and you click once, and you will have selected the entire column. Now, a slight difference between Calc and Excel is that Excel has the little white cross as a pointer and Calc has a white arrow, but it works exactly the same way. So if in Calc we were to select a range of cells, you put your mouse pointer where you want to start. You click and hold the left mouse button down, and you can either drag it down and across or across and down to select your range of cells. Now, if you had to write a range of cells down on a piece of paper, you would have to write it as A colon A1 colon D10. The colon in Excel represents the word to. So we would be selecting from A1 to D10, and that is called a range of cells. Right, so we've just selected non-adjacent cells, cells that are next to each other. When it comes to selecting non-adjacent cells or cells that are not next to each other, it's just a little bit more tricky. You need the control key on your keyboard as well as your mouse. So let's see how to do this. First, you select the range that you want. Then you hold the control key down on your keyboard and you select the second bit of cells that you want. And you can see that nothing in between is selected. So you have selected non-adjacent cells. If we look at Calc, it works in exactly the same way. You first select the group of cells that you want, then you hold your control key and you go and select the second group of cells that you want. And once again, you can see that there is nothing in between, so we have selected non-adjacent cells. Okay, as I mentioned before, you can only use numbers in a calculation. And there's one rule you have to remember in Excel, and that is to use the cell as a reference and not the number. And I'm going to show you why. If I click here in cell B10, I'm going to perform the calculation the right way using the cells as references, and then the wrong way using the numbers as references, so that you can understand why you need the cell as a reference and not the number. So I'm going to add up these numbers. And I get an answer. Now, I'm going to click underneath it, and I'm going to use the cells as references instead of the numbers in the cells. And I get exactly the same answer. But here's why you use the cell as a reference and not the number. I'm going to change the number in cell B7 to 200, and look what happens to my answers. Only the second answer changed, where I used the cells as references and not the first answer. Okay, you could see that the answer only changed in the second sum because I used the cell as a reference and not the number in the cell. So it's very, very important to remember the rule to use the cell as a reference and not the number. And that's the end of our third lesson in Excel. Thank you for watching, grade 10s.